The highway twisted through Mexico's volcanic highlands, curving between pine forests and steep rock walls that whispered in the wind. The sun set over the hills in bleeding orange when Marta first caught sight of the village, San Maria de la Laguna, hugging a steaming turquoise lake. A weathered wooden sign creaked in the breeze, greeting travelers, though few ever saw it. Marta climbed down from the dented pickup truck and took a deep breath of the thin mountain air. Pine and sulfur combined in an uncomfortable odor. Her cousin Oscar stood waiting, sitting on the top of a stone wall, half smile, half warning on his face. "Welcome, Marta," he said, hugging her. "We're glad you're here. Abuela Isabel's been expecting you. She told you not to drive after dark in these mountains." Marta laughed softly. "I made it just in time then." The house stood on the edge of the village, built of volcanic stone, smoke curling from its chimney. Inside, her grandmother sat by the fire, stirring a pot of soup whose scent filled the small room. "Mi niña," Abuela Isabel said warmly. "You're tired. Sit, eat, and rest. The night comes quickly here." While they ate, Marta looked out the small window. Outside of it, the lake glimmered thinly under a rising moon. "It's lovely," she whispered, "but it feels different, like the air itself alters when the sun sets." Abuela Isabel nodded only, her eyes catching the light of the fire. Oscar smiled cautiously and replied, "Later, after we have eaten, I will take you to the lake. Full moon this evening, wonderful for walking. But we need to return by midnight." They took a small trail through the pines, the woods alive with the buzz of insects and the sharp cry of a night bird. The lake was visible like a mirror of silver, shrouded in mist. Its face was softly glowing green, steaming softly where the moonlight kissed it. Marta knelt on the shore and ran her fingers over the surface of the water. The air was perceptibly sulfur-scented, heavy and ancient. "It's like it's alive," she whispered. Oscar nodded. "The elders say it is. They say the lake never freezes, even in winter. Its water boils below the surface. A long time ago, the villagers lit a ritual fire here, an offering to the spirit that sleeps below." "What sort of spirit?" Marta asked. "The guardian of the volcano," Oscar said quietly. "They believe the lake was a doorway to something deep below, something that must never be allowed to wake." Marta smiled uncertainly. "That sounds like a legend." A sudden crack echoed from the tree line. Marta turned sharply, heart racing, but saw only the shifting mist. "Probably an animal," she said, forcing a laugh. Oscar's face was white in the moonlight. "Perhaps, but let us go back. The mist is heavy tonight." They went back in silence, the boiling water distant behind them. Marta could not sleep. The house was still except for the sound of the hearth crackling. She could see through the window the shine of the lake beyond the trees, a beat in the darkness, and then a movement. A shadow at the edge of the mist. Something or someone at the water's edge. She put on her jacket and walked out, disregarding the cold that produced goosebumps on her arms. "Oscar?" she whispered. No reply. The wind sighed in the trees. She went down the path along the lake, the ground warm under her feet, the air heavy with the odor of sulfur. Halfway to where she was going, she heard it. A thrumming, almost singing noise coming from the lake itself. It wasn't alive. It was low and rhythmic, like the earth's slow pulse. Marta stopped as she approached the clearing. There at the water's edge stood a figure tall as herself. It was veiled in mist, its face not visible, but its eyes shining palely gold in the moon. It lifted a hand towards her. Marta's breath stuck in her throat. She took a step back, her shoe crunching on a stick. The noise was like the crack of a shot. The figure disappeared into the mist. She turned and ran, blundering on the path, branches slapping her face. By the time she flung open the door to the house, her chest was aflame. "Oscar," she panted, bursting in. "I saw somebody by the lake." Her cousin leaped upright from the cot. "What? Who?" Abuela Isabel stirred awake beside the fire. "Marta," she said softly, "you shouldn't have gone." Oscar took a lantern and rushed outdoors. Marta trailed after him, her heart pounding. They arrived at the shore. The lake churned like a great cauldron, heavy clouds rolling across the earth. Oscar held up the lantern and nodded. The surface of the water rippled gradually, shining brighter. "There," he breathed. Something emerged. The ripple expanded, rippling outward across the surface of the water. The air thrummed with a nearly silent hum. Marta could feel the hair standing on her neck. "Let's go," she breathed. "Please." but they were not able to go before the water hissed. A jet of steam rose up with a gurgling, grinding sound, then fell back. The ripple ceased. There was silence again, heavy, unnatural. They came home disturbed. Abuela Isabel waited, eyes wise. "You saw it," she said flatly. "Then you should learn the truth." She took them to a cedar chest and lifted the lid. Within rested an iron lantern, a dish of ashes, and a small wooden figurine of a woman spread out her arms. The scent about the chest was like incense and soil. "Back then," Abuela said, "our people constructed a temple along the lake. They prayed to the volcano guardian, the spirit that prevents the mountain from erupting. To maintain the entrance underwater sealed, they lit a holy fire on every full moon. When the final keeper passed away, the fire was extinguished. That was 40 years ago." Marta's flesh crawled. "And the person I saw?" "A sentinel," Abuela whispered. "A warning that the door is opening." Oscar's eyes blazed. "Then we light the fire again tonight." Abuela nodded, handing the iron lantern into his hands. "We will honor the old pact, or the volcano will wake and the lake will take us all." The sky was dark gray when they returned to the shore. The wind had died down. Only the constant hiss of steam filled the air. Abuela knelt next to a ring of stones, the old ritual pit black from long years ago. She scattered the ashes in a ring and set the carved figurine in the middle. Oscar struck flint and a small fire bloomed. He lit the lantern and placed it next to her. Abuela recited in Nahuatl, her words calm amid the increasing shake in the earth. The color of the lake changed from light green to dark jade. Waves washed against rocks, although there was no breeze. Marta tried not to breathe as bubbles came from the middle, bursting with soft pings of heat. Then something started to come out. A form, long, winding, erupted from the sea. It stood dripping and shining like melting silver. Its hide glimmered with scales that reflected the moonlight, and its eyes blazed gold. It was human-like, but not human, cold and old. When it spoke, its voice was the crunching of stone. "You have returned the flame," it said. "You honor the pact." Oscar moved closer, holding the lantern high. "We ask you to watch, not sleep," he told it, his voice shaking but resolute. "Keep the mountain quiet. Keep the door shut." The creature cocked its head. The mist grew thick for a moment, swirling around them in circles. Then gradually the lake subsided. The creature produced a tiny, almost human smile before it disappeared into the water, leaving behind only ripples and steam. The wind changed. The fog started to lift. The humming stopped. Abuela buried the figurine in the ashes, covering it with earth. "It is done," she said softly. "But we need to keep the fire burning every full moon. The mountain sees and the lake hears." Marta breathed out, eyes brimming with tears. "Is it safe now?" "For now," Abuela replied. "But never forget, safety here is borrowed, not won." By dawn, the village was awake. Smoke curled from chimneys, roosters called out, and the fog had cleared to a sky-colored rose and gold. Marta and Oscar followed the path back from the lake, their faces white but serene. "You're in it now," said Oscar. "The village, the lake, the pact. You can't look away." Marta nodded. "I didn't come here seeking legends," she said quietly. "But I see why people linger. There is something old in this country. Something breathing." They paused on a ridge looking down over the lake. Steam rose softly off its face. Beyond it, the volcano loomed quiet, its summit shrouded in cloud. "I went to Mexico to discover my roots," Marta spoke softly. "And I discovered something older, a promise. A presence that guards beneath the surface, reminding us what occurs when the living lose sight of the dead." Oscar glanced at the volcano. "We'll keep the fire lit," he said, "every full moon, just as before." With the sun rising higher, the steam off the lake glimmered with color, green, gold, and silver, like fish scales below. Marta imagined she saw motion, a rip deep down, but nothing. The lake remained still once more, quietly calm. The villagers moved about in ignorance, their laughter echoing distantly between the pines. Only Marta stopped to look back once more. For a moment in the ripple of the lake, she believed she saw a face, golden eyes peering up from under the water, before it was lost to the depths. The mountain towered behind her, silent and ageless. And below it somewhere, the keeper of Laguna Caliente slumbered again, anticipating the next full moon.